Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to bring the good news to the poor. He has sent me to comfort the brokenhearted and to proclaim that the captives will be released and the prisoners will be freed, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor and the day of vengeance of our God.
Beverly Hills Precious Metals Exchange is a client-focused firm devoted to assisting our clients with precious metals. Our clients range from first-time to serious coin collectors and investors seeking to add precious metals to their investment portfolios. We are not interested in volatile investments, leveraged products, and intangible assets. With rising inflation and the devaluing of the dollar hurting middle-class families, investing in gold and silver ensures protection for your hard-earned money. Save the value of your money today by investing in gold and silver at Beverly Hills Precious Metals.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is a very special day. Today I get to speak with, for the second time, Andrew Sorchini of Beverly Hills Precious Metals. I've met him and his wife are in San Diego, and that was at the Reawaken America tour. And those of you who watched some of my recent videos as well, I've talked about Andrew Sorchini in terms of just letting people know that that's a fantastic place to get your precious metals. He picks up the phone and he delivers. Those are the two main things you want when you want to get precious metals. So without further ado, everybody, Andrew, welcome to my show.
Thanks, Bo. Thanks for having me back. It's a pleasure. And I love talking to people from the family of listeners that watch the Gold 2020 forecast. We have a lot of fun.
Thanks. No, appreciate it. Now, it's exciting times that we live in, and those who follow me, I analyze time, particularly what time do I follow, biblical timelines, and what's God's money, gold and silver. Haggai 2:8 states the silver and the gold are mine, saith the Lord. So what better person can we have on today about, talking about precious metals, because it's so important to understand. I've stated this, I don't know how many times in all my shows, but when we see, and we'll talk about this today again, when we see precious metals lift vertical, okay, they're never going to look back. And the train will have left the station and you will have been too late. But more importantly, that will be the birthing of this incredible change that we've been waiting for, this birth of a new era, because God's kingdom is a kingdom-based economy based on more than enough, rather than the system of barely enough that they basically try to impose upon the world, because they keep increasing the price of everything with what? Hyperinflation, inflation. So everything keeps getting more expensive. And what does that do? It causes you to keep chasing things and you can never catch up. And so the importance of this interview today is to have people understand how important it is. If in your heart, I don't want to tell people what to do, but if in your heart you feel that this interview resonates with you, then maybe you should act on it. And and Andrew can answer all questions that people might have about where to get it, precious metals, how to acquire it, what are the steps? Do you have a 401k or an IRA? How do you handle all those issues? And so we'll talk about all of that today. So with that said, tell me, what's the newest intel on gold and silver today in relation to the Fed?
Yeah, so today the big news is that the government...
Oh, let me pause you. I'm sorry.
Sure.
Today is June 15th, 2022. Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, and it is a big day. It's today the government raised a key interest rate by 3/4 of a point. It's a historic move. It's solely to fight inflation. And what's interesting about that, you turn on the TV, you hear inflation all day long. But I've actually, there's someone else that I work with that actually put together a video where you can hear Biden and you can hear Janet Yellen and everybody out there in the financial world saying there is no inflation, there is no inflation. Now they're raising interest rates to curb inflation. And what that will do, that will bring down the real estate market. And right now, real estate and gold and silver are the two places that seem the safest to put a few dollars. And it's going to scare that money out of the real estate market right into gold and silver. I don't know where else it would go.
Well, if we want to talk about real estate, think about this, for example, right? And please, if I'm saying something that's incorrect, chime in, Andrew. But this is my take on real estate, and I don't think I'm dead. I think I'm 100% correct. Okay, people don't buy a home or real estate based on the price of the home. They buy a home based on the affordability on the monthly payment.
It's true, like
Okay.
where they want to live, and
Right. So if a home might, so if they can afford 5,000 a month, as an example, okay, so they will buy a home that comes in the category of 5,000 a month. But when that home becomes when it becomes 6,000 a month, they can't afford that home. So it doesn't matter what the price of the home is, it's the affordability on the monthly payments. And that's the essence of how this is all playing out. So when you increase the interest rate by 3/4 of a point, see, that's a huge problem, because that'll take maybe a $5,000 monthly payment and bump it up to six. So now the home that was $1 million, now you can't afford that home. So you have to buy a home that's only $800,000 because of the change of the interest rate. So run the math, when people look at it, but you'll start to understand that interest rate ties in directly with affordability of a home. And that's why they've kept interest rates like at low for forever, right? How long have they been at virtually zero or just barely anything for years? And now they're starting to lose control.
it's true. The banks have been giving away money, like giving it away for years now. And I really started to notice it late last year when talking with the bankers that I know very well at the Wells Fargo branch that I go to in the San Fernando Valley where I live. And I talk with them all the time, and they said, yeah, right now we're not lending as much for home loans and for business loans as we used to. In fact, late last year, Wells Fargo actually discontinued their very popular business line of credit that they offer. It's not anything I've used, but I've gotten a mail for decades where it says you could qualify for a $100,000 line of credit. Just send in this form and we'll contact you, and it's for your business. Yeah. And they discontinued it. So I thought banks were in the business of lending money to charge interest, and it's one of the many ways they make money. Yeah. Well, they discontinued a lot of their programs late last year, and they're starting to curb them now. So the writing is on the wall. We're not trying to be doomsdayers here. It's you've been able to forecast much of this biblically, and we know it's coming. And we've been telling people, just to wrap up this thought, we've been telling people for months that the stock market was going to pull back, and people did not want to take their dollars out because it's like, it's been good for 13 years. Why would I not want to keep doing it? But we're seeing some really, really big drawdowns, 30-40% in some cases. So,
right. But these changes that you're seeing, see all of this, and you're saying, oh, why would I've been stable for 13 years? Why would I do it now? See, that's the thing, right? See, when one generation and then another generation and another, all these generations go by. So, and so what's a generation? Maybe 50, 70 years is an example, probably 70 years, I think, biblically. So the point is, as a couple generations go by, hey, the dollar's been the world reserve currency for so long. You've grown up thinking that the dollar is stable. It's never going to go away, or there's never going to be a problem with the dollar. So that's the world we live in, because it's generational. But those that grew up, like my family, grew up in Europe, right? And so we've seen I've heard stories through my parents of, they wake up one morning and their currency that they're currently using devalued by 50%. And so these are not made up stories. They're true stories that these things happen. And so when a currency devalues by a sudden event, that changes everything, right? And so here in the United States, we've never imagined something like that because we've never seen something like that. But those that come from other countries, have seen these events go down. And when something like that happens, suddenly it changes everything, right? And so, we're living in the time, it's a biblical timeline that we're living in right now, and so those who've listened to my presentations will understand that, specifically where we are, this is a financial event that's been prophesied for 2,000 years. And as crazy as that sounds, it's going to happen. And it's not only me, there's numerous prophets that have prophesied the word financial reset. year of Jubilee. And, so I've described that, how it relates to a 50-year cycle and Leviticus. But the point being, I'm not the only one shouting from the rooftops about how the world is going to go through a massive financial change. And that timeline in the Bible can be clearly described in the third seal of Revelation, and Proverbs talks about that. It's called the wealth of the sinner is stored up for the righteous. And so all these people that have been stockpiling money and working with the evil side, they're about to have a come to Jesus moment. And everything that we've believed to be true suddenly changes.
Absolutely. It's we've had it so good here in the United States for so long that we do forget. We become complacent and we forget that these things can happen, that our dollar could lose half its value overnight. We've seen what's happened in Ukraine, and we just say, well, this is the United States, this isn't Ukraine. But there's numerous other countries that it's happened in. And when you talk about it in as far as generations, it was almost 100 years ago that we saw the stock market crash and begin the Great Depression. And the Great Depression and World War II were probably the last couple of times that America actually saw any hardship like what many of the other countries, especially ones in Europe, have seen in recent years. And if you talk to anybody who is a child of somebody that lived in the Great Depression, they put away gold and silver. They understand you need to have tangible assets to be able to protect yourself in a volatile market and against geopolitical events as well. So it's a very
so you're bringing up history, right? So here is a 100-year cycle chart, which is in my which I give away for free to people. It's in my presentations, right? So it's 100-year cycle charts that indicates that this year, 2022, will be a massive stock market crash and war this year. And the reason being because it's a 40-year cycle. So every 40 years you'll see its cycle. So this is 1942. And you'll see that was World War II. There was a war there and there was a crash. And you run another 40-year cycle to 1982, and that's the Falkland War, another crash event. And then you connect the line all the way here, and you got another 40 years. So potentially we could see a stock market dip down to the 7,000 to the 5,000 point range this year. Again, I don't know the number it's going to bottom at, okay? But the stock market has not been looking really good recently for those that are in the stock market, right? And I'm sure you're getting a lot of phone calls. Hey, what's going on with the stock market? What should I do? And then before you answer, Andrew, there's one thing that I've learned over the years. Those who do not have precious metals in their portfolio do not understand history. So go ahead.
Oh yeah, it's as far as people feel like they're not getting out of the stock market fast enough, it's we set up precious metals IRAs, and we roll over existing IRAs and 401ks into retirement accounts that can hold gold and silver. Well, this process can take a week or two. Sometimes it can take longer. Well, people are so anxious to get the funds out of the stock market and out of the investments that they're currently in, that if this process takes an extra week or two, they're literally watching the account values go down. Every single day, someone will send an email or a text that say, hey, I'm checking to see, is my IRA funded yet? Because I've seen that it's dropped $16,000 since we first started the process a week and a half ago. And they'll give real dollar amounts, like some of them 6 figures. And I'm not trying to talk proud like, hey, this is such a slow process, people are losing money. The point is that they want to get it transferred out of stocks and into gold and silver like yesterday.
Right. Let's look at this chart. Okay, so here's the black horse. This is the third seal of Revelation. Okay, but what I want to point out here is what if you're talking like the people in a rush. Okay, because they feel it. Okay, spiritually, people feel things. Just like at some point in life, you start watching what's going on in the world and you start hearing from the Holy Spirit and you start feeling things like something's messed up, right? And that's the Holy Spirit talking to you, going, pay attention, hello, right? And so that's kind of what you're hearing. These people are like, they're anxious because they feel something. That's what's happening. And so from from what I do, I look at timelines, okay? So potentially, we are at this is like the point in time where we're out of time. Okay, so as June's ending here and we're heading into July, I'm telling you, those that are listening, if you haven't done anything, we are so close to, and what is the black horse? Okay, it's the greatest financial event in human history. What does that mean? It means that by the hand of God, the movement of God, things are going to happen because God's going to intervene upon this earth, and we are going to see the changing of the guard in the financial system. The world that you know financially is going to change, and it will not be quick. It's going to be a sudden event. We talked last time on the show that we did, and I asked you a question. And I loved your answer. So if you can repeat it again, that was great. But today silver is like at $21, right? And so if silver went in one single day to $60, Andrew, what would you do, and what would your day be like?
We'd be sold out of everything we have in the first hour, and I would send everybody home, pack up, and I would literally head to the beach. I would.
I just want people to understand when this event happens, it's going to be quick, sudden. Think about, like, this is another thing to consider, right, Andrew? How many, from what I last heard, I think it was like 17 or 18 trillion dollars have been created in the past 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay. It took 100 years to make the first trillion. Okay. And then layer in this fact. Okay. So those that are in the stock market, these are just factual statements I'm making. Go to the crash of 1929. Okay, so go to the crash cycle of 1929 and Google or find out how long it took until the bottom arrived. So even though the markets crashed in 1929, Andrew, it took 3 years to hit bottom.
Yeah.
So now let's overlay that into today. Okay, so we had the crash of 1929 in March of 2020. What did they do? Created 7 trillion over the weekend, pumped into the market. What's the market done ever since? It's gone up. How did it go up? Well, if you can create money out of thin air and push it in the stock market, you just reinflate the bubble. That's all that happened, but it's still a bubble, okay? And it took 3 years to hit bottom. 20, 21, 22. So we are in the crash of 1929. You just don't see it, but you're about to feel it when it happens, okay? So these things are so close, and it's because they've inflated it. They pushed everything up to create a fictional narrative that's not the truth, because they can by clicking buttons, but ultimately the truth will prevail. And the truth is, as I showed you on that stock chart earlier, you're probably looking 5,000 to 7,000 on the Dow this year. I don't know, but I'm telling you, it's coming. Okay, it's coming, and I do believe that this July we could see something truly crazy occur. So that's like my 2 cents on why it's so important to own precious metals, because again, if you don't own precious metals, you don't understand history. You don't understand, and life replays itself. You read Ecclesiastes, that which has been will be again. And so we're living in a world of that which has been is going to be again really soon. And so by owning precious metals, all you're doing is doing one simple thing. You're securing safety for yourself and your family.
Exactly. It's wow, there's just so much powerful information that you just covered just right there. It's just so many thoughts going through my mind. First of all, March of 2020 is always going to be an important time as far as thoughts that I have about what that time was like. We were all so scared. Here in California, they did this stay-at-home order, and starting in March of 2020, they want you to leave your house unless you really had to. And at that scary moment, at our weakest moment, is when they decide to pump trillions of dollars worth of money into it. And how would we say no? We didn't know what was going to happen. Is everybody going to die? Will the world be annihilated? We were just being fed so many different things. We didn't know what to believe. And then you talk about the dark horse, and we compare it to, say, 2007. I remember in 2005, 6, and 7, when the real estate market was sky high, And everybody out there, if you're just talking at the grocery store, the post office, if you're at a ball game talking to whoever's next to you, they say, but you know it's going to come crashing down, right? Yeah, it will. Nobody said, no, this is not going to come crashing down. It'll go up forever. Not one person said that. And if people have ever seen that movie called The Big Short, you can see a story about a guy that bet everything on it going south. And for a long time, he was wrong. It took a couple of years before what he said would happen happened. And that's what you're talking about. March 2020 was the beginning of probably the 3-year cycle of when we would pay the price for what is coming. And during COVID, we saw everything go up. When people weren't working and people were at home, stocks went up, cryptocurrency skyrocketed, gold and silver went up, and real estate went up a lot. And it's time to pay the piper. It's just a natural part of the process. And winter is coming and people need to be prepared.
Oh, absolutely. Talk a little bit about hyperinflation. So here's a chart. You know, this is, I think, from your website. Actually, I think it was from your website. I downloaded the information and I put it onto my own PDF presentation just because it was so beautiful. But you know, this is factual stuff. Those 2 links, Andrew, go to your website. So link 1 and link 2, they go directly to your website because this is, you know, you put it together. So describe to the audience, you know, what hyperinflation is in its simplest form.
Well, when we see hyperinflation, it at first you don't feel that it's hurting you. You know, if you've got $10,000 in your pocket and you go to bed and you wake up and you look in your pocket, there's still $10,000 there. So you don't feel like you've lost anything, but we're losing it in buying power. So the current inflation rate is supposed to be 8.6%. It's estimated that it might be really 15 to 20%, which is hyperinflation. We've definitely seen that at the gas pumps.
If I can pause, I love when Clay talks about it. You know, give me an example of what's up 8%.
Exactly.
Because when you start thinking like realistically, like you go to the gas pump, you go to the grocery store, you can go like 8%. Like, wait a second, that doesn't even add up. So go ahead.
It's true. And to piggyback on that, we went for Korean barbecue last night at one of our favorite places, but we hadn't been there in a few months. We ordered like 6 different types of meat that they brought out. And my wife looked at me and she goes, I think the portions got smaller. And I go, of course they did, because they've kept the prices the same, but the portions are smaller, therefore it costs more. And those are the things that we're seeing with the hyperinflation. So for people that really choose to not think about this, your dollar is buying about 85 cents worth of goods and services in comparison to what it would have bought a year ago today. So in order to counteract that inflation, it's one of the best moves would be to invest into gold and silver, which typically will go up during hyperinflationary times. And I would say it's the best place to put it right now, not cryptocurrency, not stocks. I do believe there will be a time here in a few years, maybe only a couple of years, when you'll want to convert much of your portfolio back into stocks after it's done correcting. I know I will be doing that as well, but I don't want to be in the stock market now for sure.
Well, and so from your presentation or from your information on your website, you know, with regard to stock, like you're talking stock market and, you know, dollar, the stock market, the problem that I have with the stock market, as much as it was an honest form of measure of the markets in history. See, right now it's a captured entity, right? So all they do is they pump money into it to make it look like everything's okay. But the reality is it's a fraudulent money system. That's what it's turned into. So it's no longer a true price discovery, because if you have, you know, companies being able to buy back their own stocks, they can, and the Fed's giving them free money to pump the money back into their, you know, it's like, what is the value of that? You don't know the true value. So there's no true price discovery in anything anymore. That's why, like an example, silver is $21. Are you kidding me? Okay. Are you kidding me? Right? But that's the reality of it. They don't want precious metals. They're precious metals. They're precious. They're God's money. They don't want precious metals to have real value. You know, you think, you know, gold's 1,800. Big deal. Okay. Bitcoin's 30,000, you know, so 20,000. It doesn't matter. Gold still $1,800. Okay. So Bitcoin's worth 10 times right now what gold is worth, right? My point being is the reality is money, it's a perception of what it is, but the markets themselves, the stock market, everything's smoke and mirrors at this point in time. You don't know what has value, but I do know that when people have the ability to create money out of thin air, stick it in the markets, prop it back up, so as much as it might be worth something, it might have a value. Even let's say the Dow one day went to 50,000 or 70 or 80,000. The problem is you're stuck in a system that's corrupt, right? And by that, I want to promise you one thing. If that ever happens, okay, by that time, silver is like 600, $1,000 an ounce, right? So you might have the Dow triple in price, but silver went, biblical, okay? When I mean biblical, silver went Matthew 30 multiplication, 30, 60, or 100 fold. These are things that are coming upon the earth. So as good as the stock market might improve in the future, you don't know when God intervenes and you got a third seal event, the greatest financial event in human history. I'm telling you, there's no reason to be in anything fake like paper, right? And so, back to hyperinflation, the simplest definition that I got after reading your charts was very simple. It's the doubling of prices in a very short window, such as days or even hours. And so there's examples here. These are real things that happen. France, Germany, China, Nicaragua, prices doubled. Prices of goods were doubling, and as little as, I think, sometimes like 24 hours, and sometimes it took like 15 days, but things were doubling in price. So my point being is, if you had precious metals, we haven't, as much as we've seen inflation, Andrew, my charts say we haven't seen hyperinflation yet. Okay, it's coming. And so when that happens, right, things are going to double in price, triple in price very quickly. But you won't care if you're positioned and you've prepared, because what does the Bible say? Prepare, right? So even though we have a Jubilee coming, people are going to, maybe mortgages and everything we're going to break. That's fantastic. So the bondage comes off, because that's really what a Jubilee is. But blessings come to those who prepared. And so if you prepared and, you basically, got your money in a safe IRA, you've basically had precious metals delivered to you. The point being is that when these events go down, if the price of something tripled through hyperinflation, but silver is going to go 30-fold minimum, then 60, then 100, you won't feel it. Exactly. Talk about that.
That's a perfect example. And it goes to what you said about the dark horse scenario, where this is a changing of the guard of our whole financial system. The government and the big banks, which are tied in together, they want every dollar and every asset for us to be on a centralized banking system where it could be monitored.
Yes.
And nothing physically changing hands between us. And that's really what they're going for. And if it is that way, then there wouldn't be any way for us to be able to hedge hyperinflation at all. So the big banks and the government want to curb the purchase or conversion of gold and silver as a hedge against inflation. They do. And I have just an amazing example that I just can't wait to tell. And I hope this is of interest to you. It certainly is for me. I've got a client that is a bishop in the Catholic Church here in Southern California that is a client of ours that has done 3 $500,000 gold purchases with us, 3 good purchases done by wire transfer from their bank to us. So the 4th time they want to do a check, and it's for $712,500. And it's another gold purchase. And I thought it was a little peculiar that they wanted to do a check, but I'm not the one handling the transaction. It's one of my associates. And I just said, okay, just let them know that I'll hold it for 5 business days. It's a large purchase. I want the check to clear. On the afternoon of the 4th business day, I get notification that it's cleared. So I could ship that same day. I just decided I was going to wait till the following morning and just stick to the full 5 days. So that night, I get an email from Wells Fargo stating that the funds have been returned. It didn't say for insufficient funds, just returned after cleared. So I had my associate contact the clients, and the clients were very surprised. They didn't believe it at first. They went into their bank and they found out that the bank did return it. They said that it was a fraudulent charge or fraudulent purchase, and that they should not be purchasing gold from people that they don't know. They explained to them that they do this every time they go into the bank with them to do a wire. There's the push and pull back and forth that this is a good purchase, and each time they receive their product and they're happy.
Yeah.
So the bank said, well, we don't condone these types of purchases, so we would just recommend that you close the account now. We'll cut you a cashier's check for what you have in there, and you need to open an account somewhere else. This is a true story. Wow. And they're very busy, so they're setting up an account at Wells Fargo so that we can do transactions back and forth. But the point is that these are the big banks fighting back. It's they're being told what to do. They're following orders from way up above of how to keep this, or how to move all of us into a centralized banking system. And just one final thought. I still have to go into the bank to do large wire transfers to pay for product. And the branch that I go to this week, I've had a very difficult time. One teller, one business banker. And I asked the manager, why would you only have one teller and one business banker? And she confided that they want to make the banking experience for all type of bank customers. They want to make that experience so difficult that we learn to do it from home in our computers.
Yes.
And no more face-to-face, no more exchanging of cash back and forth, all done electronically on the keyboard. And it's coming. It's coming. So we need to have physical gold and silver.
Well, and the other thing too, right? So when you create as much money as we talked about earlier, right, the trillions, what you create a huge problem, and the problem that they've created is the paper representation of it. It's not possible. So why they're trying to do that as well too is because they want to avoid having bank runs. Because one day there's going to be an issue where, there's going to be something crazy happens. They're going to go to the bank and try to withdraw cash, but there's not enough cash in the banks. They can't make it. They'd have to cut down every single tree in the world right now to make enough paper representation of the money that they've created digitally, right? So, because people don't understand what a trillion is. If you only knew how big a trillion is, it's insane how much money that is. Was it 1,000 billion? It's just insane amounts of money that's been created. And so they want to go cashless, digital, so the next thing is going to pop up is they're going to say, hey, the paper that, the money's got some new virus on it, and you can't touch it, and so that's what they're going to do to get rid of these things. And ultimately, precious metals, the great thing about them, gold and silver, and then they can't hold, they're from their nature, they don't hold any bacteria on them. There's nothing like that, and then number two is, you can't track it. That is why the central system, in a nutshell, hates precious metals, because I could give you a gold coin or a silver coin and only you and I would know about it. And that's the problem. There's in their system, they always want a middleman.
Absolutely. If you have 100,000 worth of gold at your home, and you live a full life and you pass away, and your family can take this asset without it going through probate. I know it's supposed to, but most of the time it doesn't. So they want to make sure that it's noted somewhere where you can potentially be taxed on it, and it's that they know that you have it. They want to know what we have.
Yeah.
So I think it might be a good idea to talk about how people can convert their 401ks and IRAs into a precious metals IRA.
Right. Yeah, I was going to ask you that next, just because I get so many emails all the time. It's like, I know we talk about precious metals again. I don't sell anything, right? So I tell people what I'm doing personally, and what my cycles telling you, and what I believe is going to happen in my heart, and what I'm hearing through some of the prophets speak. So that is so my calling is to kind of educate the world on what I'm doing and what I see coming, and how you can prepare. So it's easy enough to, well, not easy enough, you just still know where to go to buy precious metals. So you want a reputable source, because the number one thing about precious metals that before you start, Andrew, is you have to go to a source that when you call them, they say they have it, you send them a wire and they receive it, and then they ship it. And so there's not like a 2 month lag time in between that. There's maybe a few day lag time, but you're receiving product within a few, maybe a week, two maximum. But you want to have somebody who's reputable, who basically only sells what they have in inventory. That's the essence of an honest dealer. Oh, and or if he knows exactly what's coming in, that he can deliver very, very soon. So that's critical. And then the other thing I hear from a lot of people is, I've got, a lot of people have 401ks and IRAs, and they're like, well, what do I do with it? How do I? And honestly, I'm not a financial advisor. I know nothing about that. So if you can take everybody through like from A to Z of IRAs and how to transition that and how you can help them out.
Yeah, from the very beginning, the first thing you would need to do is just contact us. Go onto our website. You can get the links on Bo's website, but I'll give it now. It's bh-pm.com. Click on any of the red buttons that say free consultation or first time customer, and then a form will pop up. And how you fill out the form is very important. Put your name, phone number, email address. Put Gold 2020 forecast or Bo Polny. We get them every day. They usually put Bo Polny in there. And there's a portion that says notes. Be sure to say, I have a 401k that I want to learn how I could roll that over into a precious metals IRA, or I have an IRA that's in stocks and it's losing value. Please help me transfer this into a precious metals IRA. That's where it begins. We get that information. I look at every single submission. I will send it to one of our associates, and I'll try to pair you up for whatever associate is best at whatever you put down in the notes section. So right now I have someone here that can roll over many of the 401ks in like less than a week. We did one in 24 hours the other day, which is unheard of because I've had other IRAs take months.
Can I pause you for a minute? I cannot emphasize the importance of urgency. And if you believe what we're talking about, I'm just going to chime in and I cannot emphasize the importance of urgency based on my clock of cycle. So go ahead.
Yeah, it's very important. It's so once people fill out the form and I put you with an associate that will call you, many times they will text, or they will text and make sure that you're available. And they will call you, and this isn't a high pressure deal. We'll just ask you, okay, if the 401k is generated at a firm that you're still working at, there's a chance that you may not be able to roll that over. You'll have to check with your human resources department and say, I would like to take a portion of my 401k retirement and transfer it into a precious metals IRA. Can I do all of it or a portion? And they usually know, and they will tell you. But if you're not sure, call us and we'll help check with you. We can, it's not a taxable event. So that's very important. If you want to roll over an IRA that you have, it could be at Schwab or Fidelity or Vanguard or wherever, it's not a taxable event. You have 60 days to roll that over into a new investment without it being considered a distribution. Only if it's a distribution would it be a taxable event. And same for a 401k. So the costs, it's maybe $300 a year, roughly that. And the product is stored in a depository, which is the same depository that I've got several $1 million worth of inventory stored at, specifically to fulfill the IRA and 401k transactions.
And I want to pause again. This is critical because it needs to be stored in a secure facility. And I know the one that Andrew has is a secure facility. He's told me which one it is. And I know people that have done this before, and that is one of the top facilities that you stored at. So I just want to chime in because that's important. You want to use a reputable dealer and then store it safely because that's critical. Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, and I'm comfortable with where it's at, and we're not the ones that store it for you. And it's important that people know that there are 3 entities involved in helping you do this transfer. So the first one is a custodian. So you need the custodian that we use. I've worked with them for over 15 years. So if you're with Vanguard, Vanguard is your custodian. So you would just transfer from your custodian to ours. Then the second entity would be, who would you purchase the gold and silver from? So hopefully that would be me and us over at Beverly Hills Precious Metals. And we cannot be the custodian, and we cannot be the storage facility. The storage facility must be separate than the other 2 entities. And the storage facility is safe, it's insured, It costs like $100 a year to store any amount of metal there if it's through a 401k or an IRA, and that's included in the $300. So all you need to do initially is contact us. We'll provide you with an 8-page application that has forms that we pre-fill out for you. We try to make it a simple process. I've got an amazing IRA team that really work hard day in and day out and on weekends to help these transfers get moving along.
Thank you. That's great, because honestly, that is such a common question. I don't think I've ever heard anybody explain it so eloquently or so nicely, but that is the essence of it. It's not complicated, but you need to know, the main thing is use reputable people, and that's stored in a very secure place. And so that's why, I've come across you, Andrew, and I just like you, and I've done my research on where you store it and how you operate, and it's everything's above board. So that's the key, because I'm telling you, there's the essence of precious metals is there's a lot of loopholes of people trying to take advantage of people, or charge exorbitant amount of prices for spreads and things like that. So you got to be very careful, of where you buy things, and so just be cautious, but because you're basically making important financial decisions for yourself and your family, period, right?
Absolutely. One of the gentlemen that works for me, he lives in a town that's a suburb of St. Louis, and he actually works for me from there. He's a former police officer. He owns like a drug testing company and does like background checks. And I've been dealing with him since 2011. And he has, through me, we've done a lot of business selling gold and silver to people in his town and around his town, because he goes into factories and all these different places. And one of the things that he tells them, and this is a true story, is that he learned through the trial and error process of buying gold from 2 different places where the fees were super high, and he did not get good deals with them. So he talks till he's blue in the face when he goes and does the rounds in his town, and he says, learn through my experience and through my mistakes. He goes, you don't have to take the road that I did. He goes, I'm jealous of the situation you're in because you can have a good situation with Beverly Hills Precious Metals. It took me 3 tries to get them. And
well, and if I can chime in, because there's people that, I've heard many stories. People call me up, or I see when I go on a conference, or I talk to people, they're like, yeah, I got this coin, and I paid, it's like an ounce of silver, and they paid like $60 or $70 for it. I'm like, oh my God, oh my goodness, and the reason, because they're saying, oh, it's a special coin. It's got, these properties, it's made, it was off, shipwreck. The point is, we're not interested in shipwreck scenarios here. Okay. We're interested in bullion. Okay. We're interested in getting as many ounces as possible, not some pretty coin with some pretty stamp on it. That's the essence, and that's why it's so important. So that's when Andrew sells you things, he's going to get you what you need in terms of directly with bullion, and that's what you need. If you want a few coins, that's fine too, but he's not going to sell you some shipwreck coin that's basically several hundred years old. He's going to charge you 4 times over what the price of gold is right now, and that stuff, those stories are real.
Yeah, I talk to them probably a couple times a month. There are shipwrecks that on ships that have like gone down, 150 years ago, and they find a bunch of $20 gold pieces that they have slabbed and certified as from that shipwreck. They charge like 15 times the value, and they shouldn't be worth that much. That it's people don't need that. We just we try to put people in the cheapest, most inexpensive type of gold and silver that you could use in an emergency situation to barter with. And that's real. So,
and actually, and speaking of which, can you talk a little bit about, like, give people a little bit, because I've got a lot of questions too, like describe, because I know when you go to silver or gold, they have, like, particularly with silver, they got 1 ounce, they got 10 ounce, they got kilos, they got 100 ounce, and then they got the 1,000 ounces, which no one really needs. But yeah. Can you describe a little bit of, like, if you had, I don't know, $100,000, give us a scenario of how you would distribute that kind of money, if so, because it doesn't make sense to drop 100,000 on one specific coin or one specific bullion size. What would be your thought?
Well, actually, I'm a big fan of the 90% silver. Okay. And I like the 90% silver because there's different denominations. There's 90% silver are coins that are dated 1964 and before, that are silver half dollars, quarters, and dimes. And people can barter with these.
Yeah.
There's a client of mine that's been a client of ours for like 12 years that lives in Nevada, and he does barter with these. He does it for fun. He does it to prove that it's possible. So he lays concrete for his business, and he will buy cement with gold and silver, but he does it so that he can prove that it's done, that it can be done. And for me, that's my favorite type of silver. I do like silver eagles. They're beautiful. Right now, I feel like the premium is sky high.
I
So,
agree with you. Yes, I agree
so
with you. Yeah, because basically, I did the math yesterday, Andrew. Do you realize from what I was one side I was looking at, it was $13 over spot, which is double, which is because silver's at 21, so you're literally paying almost double, or at least it's half of that price. So you're at over $30, 33 or $34 to buy a coin. The silver is spot price at 21 right now. It's insanity in terms of that spread right now. But some people are willing to do it, but I think you're losing things because you could buy 2 coins of eagles as an example, or you could buy 3 ounces of silver. You see what I'm saying? Of
yeah,
bullion.
yeah, it's we definitely try to get people the most bang for their buck. I try to steer them away from silver eagles. If silver were to go back to if the silver eagles were back to where the premium's $3 to $4 over, then maybe I would change on that. But the premium's so high. I talk to clients every day and they go, why does silver cost so much? And I go, because people understand that it's manipulated down and that the spot price isn't the real value. For physical silver, the real value is the premium added with the actual spot price. And that's just what it's worth. The banks are the ones that are manipulating the price of silver down because silver is the bank's insurance policy. And so is gold.
But at the same time too, it's a bank killer. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a bank killer too, because they don't want all of us to invest in it. They know that if the banks told us to go out and buy or invest in gold and silver, it would kill the banks.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're loading up on it because it's what's going to protect them. But they're not out there advertising that that's what they're doing.
I want to chime in on that one because that one's like a personal little thing here because they've been manipulating this for generations. You know that to be the truth,
Mm-hmm.
right? So now a prophetic word is this, okay? How this is great because Proverbs 13:22, the wealth of the sinner is stored up for the righteous. So even though they're preparing and they're stockpiling their silver because they know one day this thing could blow. Okay, they know there's gonna be one day there's gonna be a blow event. This thing's gonna blow. Okay, and it's gonna rocket. The beautiful part of this is God said they don't get to keep it. He's gonna go after that. This basically they lose all of their wealth for what they did. So their laws will be used against them and they will lose all of their precious metals for what they've done over all these generations. So even though they think they're wise, they profess themselves to be wise, but they are fools in terms of in God's eyes. So how beautiful is that prophecy? This is how this is going to play out.
I love it. And I do believe that. And it ties in with something that I tell people all the time. I've read in multiple places that it's estimated that about 2% of the American public understand the value of what gold and silver can do for your portfolio, just 2%.
Yeah.
So I often sit there and think, like, what would it be like if 10% of the American public were to have that understanding? If we could gain another 8% from where we're at now. And
well, and let me pause you on that one. That's a great thought. That's a fantastic thought. But imagine this: like, imagine we know how much money's been created in the world, right? So imagine a financial event goes down. The Dow plunges 10,000 points in a day, pops down to 20,000 and under in a single day. All you need is one billionaire to say, "Get me every single piece of silver you can possibly get your hands on," and it's gone. It's gone. You don't need 8%. You need one billionaire.
yeah,
And it's over.
And I can think of one that would probably do something like that. Someone that recently had an idea to buy Twitter, and someone he would do that just for fun.
It's for fun. That's
yeah,
right.
and it's So I feel that if a total of 10% of the American public were to almost overnight wake up and invest in gold and silver, it would probably be a big event that could make this happen. That would truly deplete the available supply of physical gold and silver. And I believe that that would topple the manipulation that the big banks are doing. And that ties in with what you said is in the Bible, that they will go down with the ship.
Yeah, black. It's a black third seal, black horse. rider has scales in his hands. Okay. And last time that we really saw the scales in the Bible of significance was with Belshazzar. And I don't know if you know that story, but it was the writing on the wall. And so a hand appeared at a party Belshazzar was having, and it wrote many, many tekel of Sorchini. That phrase basically describes you've been weighed in the balances and found wanting.
Wow.
Which means that, the financial system that we presently live in is just completely out of balance, right? So you've been weighed and found wanting. You've been found out of balance. Your kingdom, the next part of the phrase was, your kingdom has come to an end.
That could happen.
Right. And so this financial system that we know is it's that close right now. If those that have, seen my presentations, this is a very powerful slide. I've shown this, when I was in the Clay Clark, when we go to the tour, basically starting as of May 14th. Okay, so we're in the year of Jubilee, the year of the Lord's favor. The year of the Lord's favor is described in Isaiah 61. Isaiah 61, the year of the Lord's favor, and then the day of his vengeance. So we don't know the day of the vengeance, but we know we're in the year of the Lord's favor. That's been prophesied and spoken by many different prophets. I'm just reiterating why it all ties in with with Leviticus and the 50-year Jubilee cycle. As of May 14th, we're there. If you recall the chart that I showed you a while ago here, this one right here, this is why May 14th is powerful, because May 14th was a biblical turning point for gold. So this is, we're talking gold today, but this is gold. Gold dropped into the conference we were at at Myrtle Beach. It dropped on Friday, May 13th. And then it turned up on Monday, the 16th. That marked the bottom for gold. That was also a blood moon that weekend. And it was 888 months from when Israel was proclaimed a state. This marked the bottom for gold. We're seeing gold go upwards, sideways, upwards, sideways. We're seeing gold moving in this direction. And all that's coming next, okay, is an explosion like you've never seen before. And when that happens, Andrew's at the beach. Okay, I'm very clear about this. When this event happens, Andrew's at the beach. He's sold out of inventory. He's not able to buy more inventory. Correct me if I'm wrong, but because the dealers that you buy from, they don't know what they're going to be selling it to you for. So they're going to go on vacation too for a few days or whatever until things settle down. So basically, when you open your store back up, we don't know what the price could be, but it's probably going to be something crazy. And then the spread on top of that is going to be on top of that price. So spread means a crazy price on top of the crazy price. So if silver went to $60, what we talked about the other day, right? Silver at $60, tell them what would your feeling about what would happen to spot? Let's go talk about that. What would happen to spot?
That's something that we almost never talk about, but it's very, very important. If it went to $60 an ounce, I would say that the spot.
My question, would you sell it for $60? Go ahead.
Oh, nowhere near. Like the premium would probably be upwards of about 50% over spot. And I'll explain.
Which means that it would probably cost me $90 to buy the silver when it's priced at 60.
Exactly. And I have like real information to base that on. When I was 15 years old, I started working at a coin shop in West Covina, California. It was 1985. I remember less than a year later, the Silver Eagles came out. It was the first year, 1986. And silver was about $3.30 an ounce. And those would go for $1 per ounce over the spot price. And I always remember talking with the owner of the shop and saying, it just seems like silver is not a good investment because it would have to go up $1 an ounce. Like it has to go up $1, like 30% just for me to break even.
Yeah.
And he explained to me that no, only if you sell at spot, that premium, much of that will stick with the value of the coin.
Yeah.
And then I was back on board. But the point is back then it was 30%. Right now, silver's at roughly $21.80 an ounce. And a Silver Eagle costs about $13 an ounce over that, if you're lucky. Yeah. So that's, I'm going to guess, about 65% over. So I think that if we saw silver flying out of the shelves of everywhere, a 50% premium with a $60 per ounce spot price, it's a foregone conclusion. It won't be less than that.
Yeah. And that's just the start.
Yeah.
Okay, silver at $60, mark my words, the charts say that's the start of the greatest bull market you've ever seen in history.
Exactly.
So you ain't seen anything yet. When it hits 60, that's just a warm up for what's coming. Okay. So my point being is that, it's all I can say is, it's so important to understand, the importance of history Because if you understand history, you would understand what we're talking about, because history's proven over and over again that you can't trust government, because what is precious metals? It's a hedge against the financial system. It's a hedge against the government. That's what gold and silver are. It's a hedge, it's a protection. It's an insurance policy
Yes.
against what's going on in the world. And if you're comfortable with everything going on in the world, then maybe this show's not for you. But if any of part of this conversation, resonated with you, with your heart, with your spirit internally, ask yourself, what are you doing about it? Because that's critical. It's one thing to listen and one thing to hear, but it's another thing, an important thing, to act on it, right? So that was why I wanted to have Andrew here, to have people understand the importance of understanding and then acting on your understanding. And so I hope we've done a great job that here, for the viewers. I hope they've picked up a lot of information and a lot of tidbits, but I know we covered a lot of information that I have never covered on my channel. It's been a pleasure to have Andrew here. Andrew, so finish up, tell us where they can find you, anything else you want specifically to talk about, that we didn't talk about today, and wrap this up.
Yeah, people out there should do exactly as Bo suggested. Don't procrastinate. It's we all tend to do that. I think investing in gold and silver is like buying life insurance. We all agree that we need it, but you're not exactly canceling your trip to Disneyland to go out and do it. It's something that we have to do. So just reach out to us at bh-pm.com. That's BH like Beverly Hills -PM like preciousmetals.com, and click on any of the red buttons and fill out the form. We're not going to high pressure you. We're not going to call you with these stories that a truck of Silver Eagles that was meant for the U.S. Mint was bought by us for a few dollars cheaper, and it's going to run out by the end of the week. Move on this now, or you'll miss out. You're not going to miss out on anything, but what you will gain is actually some good pressure.
A good night's sleep.
Yes.
When this is all done.
Yes.
Because you bought it. You bought God's insurance policy.
You have, and let's leave it at that. Act now and reach out to us.
Andrew, thank you for being here. God bless you, your wife, your family. It's been a pleasure having you. I really enjoyed speaking with you, and I absolutely look forward to having you on sometime again in the future. So God bless you, and be well.
I'll be back. Thank you so much.